So this is iRacing launched. It's just a test. I'm driving the Super Formula Lite at the moment, so I've got that. I picked Silverstone just because that's my nearest track. I'm based in the UK, and of course we're launching this to the monitor. We're not launching it in VR because that's I can capture that, and I probably will do that later. But this is just for simplicity. You can see on the screen I've got on the right here. I've got a 120 FPS. That wouldn't be the case with the Varjo headset because the hardware is capped at 90. So if we go into options, my wheel range calculates at 1050, even though in the Fanatec control panel I set it to 1080. I need to figure out if that's an issue. It doesn't seem to be. When I've got the headset on, I'm turning the wheel 90 degrees. It turns on the car at 90 degrees. It seems to work for me. Because I've got because my Fanatec is a load cell, that's checked. I don't use launch trigger because I use the paddles and I use dual clutch. You can see for this car, the Super Formula Lite, I've got my strength down to 3, and that seems to work for me. I've got enough feel on the track, but it's not too much that after 20 minutes of racing, my hands or arms are killing me. That seems to work for me. You can see the other settings here are really just personal preference. In options, there's not a lot I configure here. The only reason I have mouse enabled for driving is so I can move some of the on-screen displays about, which I move for different cars, but once they're set, they're set. I never use on-screen chat because it's just a distraction from improving on each race. I do show some of this data on screen. Driving controls, certainly when I'm learning and improving a track, and frame rate meter, I probably don't need that on anymore, but that's just to make sure I am reaching 90 FPS with the headset on. In this setting, really the only part I use is I've set the volume controls just to my preference. Default is, I think it's just straight down the middle or it's all to the right, whatever dB that comes out as. And I've just tuned it based on some other guides and what I want to hear in the headphones. Now graphics, you have to ignore the resolution because that's just really, that's really mimicking the resolution within the VR headset. You can see I've got it on custom. I generally start with the highest setting and then I start trimming down what I feel I don't need. I only cap it to 120 when I do run it in on the desktop. I might be capturing an OBS replay footage, or it's a video demonstration here. It doesn't really have an effect on the Varjo Aero as long as you don't cap it below 90. Everything else is personal preference. I love cockpit mirrors. I don't like the virtual mirror. I like to maintain realism as much as possible. And replay, I haven't actually changed these settings. I do save my replay data after every race. In fact, after every practice as well. You never know when you might want to go back and review it. It's quite useful. Sound, I commented on these levels already. Currently, I'm using these Sennheiser headphones. I've got them plugged straight into the mini jack on the integrated motherboard, and that works for me. I may get a DAC or an amp later, but this is fine, and I don't need to spend out for that at the moment. Rotating with VR headset is crucial. So as you move your head, the headset will move the sound, and that's crucial for submersion and realism. I never use voice chat. Again, it's a distraction. If you're racing, you're racing. There's just no need for it. If you're on a track with friends or people you know from other racing forums, then it can be useful. But honestly, I generally tend to use Discord for that. And I don't use the spotter because I use Dre, Digital Racing Engineer. In the control settings, it's really personal preference. My second clutch is the lower paddles on the back of my Fanatec Podium wheel. I map a button for putting my speed pedal display on the screen. That's sometimes useful. I'm always logging telemetry. I'm not using brake bias. I'm not using DRE on this car, so I don't need those. I do have a tear-off mapped because I like to have a clean display or virtual helmet when I'm racing. That's really useful. I don't use weather. I'm not doing any weather races. I do cycle through my black boxes quite a bit. Mostly I'm on relative, but I do sometimes cycle through the others just to get the data that I need. And I do have, when I'm doing a replay, I actually just use on my keyboard, and I use this little portable Logitech keyboard. I do map the Aero keys just to replay footage really quickly. Primarily, everything is tuned so I don't have to take the VR headset off.